This is Tim Abell, and you're watching Pete Turner's Break It Down Show.
Oh, I like it. Throw my name in there, man. I appreciate it. You know, I'm bundled up here in my tent because I'm in Southern California, and though the weather is outside, it hasn't caught up to inside the tent yet.
It's chilly here, isn't it, man? I tell you what, it's been kind of refreshing because California, we always think sunny, hot, and it is mostly, but I kind of enjoy the change of weather because I grew up back east. So, and I have to say, Pete, I'm really happy to be here with you. And I mean, I've heard so much about you, and from my pal Michael Broderick. Michael said you were a rugged, candid, collaborative, and hilarious individual. And I just wanted to throw you some love on that. So I'm
oh man,
proud to be here.
I love it. I love it. I love all this. Look, the veteran stuff aside, now I was actually like trying not to put the veteran Letterman jacket on, but you're right. There is a community, and it's great to be part of it. Michael is such a great guy. Again, yeah, like you did. Shout out to him. What he does is incredible, and he's such a giving guy. And to be called rugged is great. That's one of my hallmark things. I'm a rugged, deployable guy, ready to go.
Well, I have to say too. I'm sorry, I don't want to catch up, but when Michael did his show with you, which I quite liked, and I kind of started listening to some of your podcasts, and I just loved that we did a screening of Fathers and Sons with on Jason Piccolo's show, Dr. Piccolo's show, and but I listened to some of your shows, and I just love. I think you've done like 5 or 6 shows with Jason, and I love you guys bantering back and forth about what you did in the military and what you guys continue to do today. So, thank you guys for all that.
Oh, well, thank you for what you've done as well. And I appreciate the acknowledgement. I mean, look, you do professional level work. You get hired to do things. You fully exited from the transition thing, and you are, an actor in Hollywood. And and you'll appreciate this. I can say, oh, I've gone, he's an actor. I always have to qualify like actor. Like, do they wait tables and act? Do they, whatever it is. But like, there's no qualification. Like, you're an actor, and that's what you do. And once upon a time, you were a ranger and a hard ass and a guy with a bad haircut. If you don't like ranger haircuts, as a spy, I would never cut my hair like that. But man, it's incredible to be able to share these stories in this community with each other. Jason and I are passionate about the things we're passionate about. We all work on veteran charities, but also like right now, Tim, every night I get on a rowing machine and I row with about, let's say 50 other people that are rowing around the world. We never stop. There's always someone rowing 24/7, 365. And so we're going to go 40 million meters around the world. I'm doing that for Doctors Without Borders because the folks need help. And I'll be damned if I'm going to complain about something if I'm not trying to help solve some problem somewhere,
That's, what's the one thing I've learned in life? We always talk about when you're in the military, you're serving something bigger than yourself, and it continues out of the military, and even if you're a civilian. I mean, I always look at one of my sons is an Eagle Scout, and having him attain that privilege of being an Eagle Scout was not an easy task because you got to keep them focused and on board, but it's about giving back to. And not just about you, especially to teenagers, because that's where we learn about giving back to your community. And it's not just about you. It's always something. There's something bigger out there that you can put your time and effort into, and take your I'll say your thoughts off of just you. Because a lot of our veterans are coming back, and I did a TV show called Grateful Nation for 10 seasons, taking veterans and telling their stories about heroism, combat stories, saving lives, losing limbs, and in the outdoor in a hunting environment around the world. We did shows. I mean, just some amazing stories. But what I found is that those individuals excelled and got much better when they took their the feelings off of poor me and started to help others that were dealing with some of the similar ailments, and that made them get better much more quicker than just thinking, oh man, look at me, I lost my limbs, I lost my legs, I've got PTSD. And then they took themselves out of that and started giving back by helping others that were having difficulties and could perhaps thinking about suicide, and it took them out of their hardships, it helped those other people, but it helped both of them, and it's that, I think that's necessary. Even me as an actor, to give back and to don't think about myself, but try to help others, like with anything we can do to make someone else's journey easier, take the load off.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. It is sort of, I don't know if it's part of our culture, if it's something that we're taught in the military, but it makes it hard on ourselves. Like right now, the VA is getting a hold of people saying, "Hey, get ready to get your COVID shot," and I'm like, "Hey, I'll wait. There's old timers that need to get it. They've got to go to the hospital every day. I'm glad to wait. I'm glad to wait. I'm glad to wait." And now it's really my turn now,
Yeah.
But I'm still like, no. And so in those cases, we'll put off our own help to give it to somebody else, when really it is our time to receive that benefit of whatever, a COVID shot or free tickets to a game or whatever. But on the other side, we are the first ones to say, "Oh, there's a problem. Can I help lean on this? Can I yank on this rope with you to try to get this thing going?" Whatever it is part of who we are. But is that true for you? Was that always the case? I mean, you always been this person that leaned on a social or a cultural problem like that with other people?
You know, I'll say, going back to when I was a kid, everything kind of emanates from that, as for pretty much all of us. But becoming self-sufficient at a young age, because my brother and I were basically, we were called latchkey kids. My mom ran off with my dad's best friend, kind of thing, and I didn't know what was going on when I was 7, 8 years old. But we stayed with my dad. My dad raised us, and we basically took care of ourselves. My sister was there, but my sister ended up getting pregnant, and she ended up moving off and getting married. So it was basically my brother and I at a house, and we took care of all the chores. We took care of our dogs, the chickens, cut the grass, mowed the lawn. We trimmed the bushes. We did the laundry. We dusted and cleaned the house. And my father would come through and do the old white glove inspection on Friday, and you know give us dings if it was not. It wouldn't give us our allowance if it was, oh, there's a little dust here. You better get back to work here. And when we were taught those, that having chores as a kid taught us, I should say me, to be responsible in that regard, and not to rely on other people to do those things for me. But it was also, going from that, because being being a kid, we had to make our own breakfast, our own lunch to take to school, and all those things, and make our own dinner if my dad wasn't home, because he worked a lot. He was a mechanic all his life. That was always, at the shop, at the Cadillac dealership. We learned those things, and then taking those into adulthood in the military. I I it's I have to say, military was the best door that I went through when I was 17. But I carry those things along with me about being self-sufficient, and the one thing I'll say in the military that I look at, and that we always, I'll say, with kids, with Max and my son Sean, my oldest son, is that the one thing that that I think we try to cultivate in our kids is that initiative to do more than is expected of you, because that's the one thing I see today in a lot of kids, and not just today, but even when I was a kid, people will do just barely what is expected of them or the job, and it's that initiative to go above and beyond and do more, because that's that it needs to be done. Because if I sit here and wait for someone to tell me to, oh, you finished that book, could you do this too? Oh, okay, well, no one told me to do that, so I didn't do it. Oh, okay, well, that person lacks initiative. I mean, I don't know. So I look at a lot of, with what I do with our veterans today, and what I've been grateful to do with our veterans, with Gallant Few and whatnot, in these charitable organizations, American Soldier Networks, all these ones. That we try to give some guidance, some mentorship, and I get just as much back from the veterans that I've told stories
Yeah.
and helped them, as they've gotten from me. And I think that's a two-way street. 'Cause that's the one thing I think, as an actor, getting away from, we have to get away from the it's all about me. That's what so many
Mm.
actors, I'll say, in the industry, whether entertainers or singers or whatever, it's I am the star of my universe. Look at me. And okay, I mean, there has to be some of that ego to be successful in this industry, but it's giving back. It's
Yeah.
I know I kind of drive, you know, Georgia crazy, my girl, because she's, you know, a lot of times it's you give time to people, and it's like, well, are you getting paid for that job? Are you getting paid for this? Like, no, I'm doing it because he's my friend, or I'm doing it because it's helping this individual. I'm talking to this person for 2 hours because they need some help, and so I'm going to spend my time talking to that person. And sometimes people don't understand that that giving of your time, because time is valuable, and they just don't. They want you to be uh, given something for your time, and I go, you know what? It's not always about getting. It's more about. It's almost like that. About the analogy with Christmas. It's better to give than to receive. And anytime if I can help somebody and talk to them for 2 hours, even 3 hours sometimes on the phone, help them with a career after the military, and they want to be an actor, they want to be a director, they want to be in the entertainment industry. By God, I'm going to give them the time. And I sometimes can get on a roll and just go on and on and on. They're like, dude, that's so helpful. So I just think it's kind of incumbent upon me to be able to help those coming up in the industry now, and especially those young men and women that want to kind of follow this path in the entertainment industry.
And I would just assume it doesn't have to be a veteran that approaches you. It can be someone that just appreciates your work and is trying to get in.
Yeah,
It's not veteran. We're one of the tightest families ever. We have this automatic friendship, but also we're super diverse and we're open to other people. We go to other countries to help people with their stuff, for crying out loud. It's remarkable.
well,
I wanted to ask you this.
sure.
So, okay, so you were in the Ranger Regiment. For the audience, just so they know, like this, that's the Special Forces, and these guys are hard. They're hard on.
Yeah. Real quick, I was before the regiment. I was with the Second 75th Ranger Battalion before they got the Third Battalion became a regiment.
Okay.
So I'm what you call an old scroll ranger. Yes.
Right. This. Let me take a pause and let's go down this road, because this stuff matters. So when you're in the Army and you get a Ranger tab, when you're Ranger qualified, it goes on your left shoulder, and it lets everybody know that, hey, one, you've been to this leadership school. Two, you're a hard ass. At least you have been for 2 months at one point in your life. It matters. And so we were working, Tim, in the 82nd Airborne, and my boss was this tiny little colonel. He's a reservist, and he was not in any way physically imposing, but he had a Ranger tab, right, which is common for a lot of officers.
Yeah.
And then someone asked him one day, they said, hey, when did you go to Ranger school? And he said something like 1982. And they're like, you're the senior Ranger in this brigade. And his stock went up instantly, because the word got out that he had gone through Ranger school and he was the senior Ranger in the brigade. And so he went from, because he's a very mild-mannered guy, brilliant. His head is full of knowledge, but it's easy to dismiss someone like that on a staff because, he's a tiny little guy. I bench pressed 3 of those guys,
Yeah, that's the one thing about going in the military, and then you start to learn about all the different jobs. And I remember I was an avid reader. I love military histories. I read the one thing that made me want to go in the Army was not just the books I read, but my grandfather and my other members of my in my family history that had all served. And I thought, it was incumbent upon me to join the military, to be that one person in my family, this generation, to serve and to give us the right to our freedoms. And I was a very patriotic young man, and I loved reading. And I read a book called The Green Berets by Robin Moore, in which the John Wayne movie was made. And so I wanted to be, special forces. That's what I wanted to be. So I remember when I was going to talk to the recruiters in high school. I remember I told them, I said, I want to be a special force. I want to be a Green Beret. And they're going, I remember the recruiting sergeant looks at me and goes, son, why in the hell would you want to do that? He goes, don't you want to be a truck driver or a computer operator, learn a trade so you can, and I go, no, sir, I can go to college to do that. I said, I want to do something in the military that I cannot do on the outside, and I want to serve to protect my country, and fight if I have to. And he goes, well, okay. Yes, we need people like you too. And so he finally said, he goes, I can't get you a slot in SF. He goes, but there's a thing called the Rangers. And he goes, and they just started up a 2nd battalion in Fort Lewis, and if you want to try that. You can do that. I give you a Ranger contract. And so I read up on them, and I go, yeah, that's what I want. They get, you know, it talks about all the hardships of it, you know, and going for 7 days with only 5 hours of sleep and one can of food. I'm like, yeah, that's what I would do. And I thought, you know, as a young man, I wanted to do that. I wanted to be patriotic. I wanted to serve my country, but I also wanted to be tested. I wanted to test my mettle as a man.
Yeah.
And I said, I wonder if I could do that. Because reading all these books, you read these harrowing stories of heroism and sacrifice and men dying and in firefights. And I go, man, could I survive that? Could I do that? I don't know. And I go, I want to know if I could do that. And so I'll at least go in and I'll at least know if I got what it takes to be a ranger, to work in that environment. And so it was one of those things where at the time I had no idea. So I started running, started training. I'm doing martial arts before I went in, and it was three of my buddies. Actually, we became buddies. They were all from rival high schools in the Maryland area, the suburbs of DC. Ron Britton, who went on to have a illustrious career, finished up at SF. You know, I think he had 30 plus years in the military. Wayne DeGroat, who he served his four and got out, and then there was me. And we all kind of bolstered each other because we had Ranger contract. And so through basic training, you know, we were the three amigos. And then we were there doing more push-ups than everybody else, running faster and harder than everybody. And then we went to AIT, Advanced Infantry Training at Fort Benning, and did that together. And then we went to Airborne School, Hometown Recruiter. And then we got our black berets, because at the time only the Rangers wore the black berets. And of course we all wore them kind of all fucked up and shit, you know, not knowing exactly how to wear your beret and thinking we were cool. And then finally we got to the Ranger Battalion. And when we got there, all the guys were in Panama on a training mission now, the JOTC, Jungle Operation Training Center. So we got there, and it's like nothing. You know, we're still kind of these rag bags, you know, trying to, you know, think we're cool until these guys get back, and next day we all get fucked with by these guys, and you know, we're like the newbies, and we go to RIP, and then talking about being a ranger. So the Ranger indoctrination program was a 2-week deal at the time. It's now 2 months. But at the time, you know, they try to bust your balls for 2 weeks and beat out those guys who don't fit in. And I think there was 4 of us out of, I think it was only like 15 of us that went through it. So 4 of us completed it. Myself, guy named Zerkes, and DeGroat, and Ron Britton. And so that kind of makes you feel good, because, I mean, it was a ball buster. It was a ball buster. And then 6 months later, I'm going to Ranger School, and you hear the horror stories, and you know, it's not easy. And I remember it's just kind of a gut check the entire time. You know, it's like, okay, I didn't lose any weight because I was a skinny bastard anyway, but you know, and I could run like a gazelle, so I was good at all that, my physicality, all that. And it's just the things that you learn as a young man, being 18, doing that, and it was, you know, it was some of the best training experience, you know, that you go through, and the amount of pride you feel when you know, there on your shoulder. Now you got your Ranger tab above your Ranger scroll, and you know, now you feel badass. Now you're like, yep, and you got your patrol cap with your Ranger tab on it. So now you're all cool, and you're part of the team now, and you kind of fit in. And it makes you feel good, because it's a lot of things that a lot of guys didn't make it. Guys who were awesome, outstanding soldiers who maybe they didn't do the swim test quite as good, or they didn't feel that comfortable in the water, or they couldn't pass all their patrols, you know, and then they finally got recycled, and then, you know, I have no idea what happened to a lot of those guys. But
they drove trucks.
Yes, but the thing is, you know, if you don't give it a shot, you don't give it a try, you'll never know. And that's the thing, is, you know, you got to put your balls out there sometimes. And hey, it doesn't always work, and it hasn't always worked for me. You know, I've had many a failure out there. But again, you know, you see that NCO with that Ranger tab, and you go, well, okay, you know what? Well, at least he's got some, you know, he's got a little something going on. And listen, there's dirt bags in every phase of everything we do. I don't care if you're from the veteran world to the military to civilian world, actor world. I mean, there's turds out there everywhere. But you know what? It's it's about that brotherhood once you're there. Because I'm still buddies with a lot of my pals from the Ranger Battalion, and it's it never changes. It's just like we were there yesterday when we talk.
Yeah. So I want to get back into this thing too, because being being a ranger is one thing, going through basic training, going through, your AIT. I mean, none of this stuff is easy stuff for a civilian. Then you go through ranger school, airborne school, I'm assuming, all kind of, you're in training for the better part of a year to get through this process. And now you're a little baby ranger in a ranger regiment. And then they have to turn you into like a professional ranger. Yes, you've been through the school and everything else, but you don't, and you know this, you don't know the first goddamn thing. Your job is to shut up, do push-ups, run hard, and do your thing. How long does it take to make a regiment ranger? Like a scroll wearing, this guy is, legit. How long does that take?
Well, listen, I'll tell you, in today's world, or I should say in the past 20 years, and you know this well, these young men that join the military, become Rangers, go through it's now called RASP, Ranger Assessment Selection, and for 2 months, and then go to the regiment and first, second, or third, and then a lot of these guys, before they even go to Ranger school, they go off they go on deployment. A lot of these guys have had combat deployments and been in firefights before they even go to Ranger school. And so they take that whole skill set with them. But you still need to have that Ranger tab to advance the Ranger Regiment because it's a leadership course.
Right.
So if you don't have that, you can't go above. If you're a Spec 4, you're not gonna become an NCO until you get that. As an officer, no go. It's if you don't.
Yeah.
And if you don't pass, if you don't make it through Ranger school, and I don't think there's any that I am aware of any Ranger that come from regiment now, or back when I was from battalion, that didn't make it through Ranger school, with exception of maybe a medical issue, and because you go through a 2-week pre-Ranger, which means we're going to bust your balls for 2 weeks, and so you will know exactly what you're going to be dealing with at Ranger school. And that way there's no surprises. So you know how to deal. You know how to suck it up and drive on, and no one likes a whiner. It sucks for everybody. So you just kind of suck it up and you drive on. You do your deal, do it to the best of your ability. Hopefully you pass. And so these young guys today, listen, they're hard and badasses, man. I mean, these guys. Some of these guys have had 15, 16, 17 deployments.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
Entire
career spent deploying and coming back.
I am in awe of our military today, of what these of the special operations community, and what they've done and continue to do. And these guys, and a lot of people, these poor guys are like this, but it's what these guys train for. It's what they live for. It's like a professional. I always say it's like a professional football player who trains to play in the NFL, and and then you finally play in the NFL, and you don't want to retire. You don't want to not play in the NFL. You want to keep playing. Guys, come back. I remember someone who's been very successful now in the entertainment industry, but came from the second Ranger Battalion from the regiment, and then went Delta, was Tyler Gray, who does the CBS SEAL Team show. And he's done very well. He's become a director as well as the actor on it, and does great work. But I remember him telling me once about he goes, lots of people think that what PTSD is. We have this mental image. It's I did bad things. I shot people maybe I shouldn't have shot, or I saw people get killed. And he goes, yeah, well, there's some of that. He goes, for guys like me, and guys that my teammates, we loved what we did. We were awesome at what we did, and we miss what we did. Our angst is that we can't be over there doing it right now, and that's where that heaviness in our soul is that we're not still doing that. And so a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah,
that's what you train for. That's what you do. That's who you become. And when you do it long enough, it just becomes that's your life, that's your work, and that becomes your mission. So what I'm happy for is to see someone like Tyler Gray, who gets to put his skill set and what he's gone through, from the emotional aspect of it to just to the being a hard ass and being an outstanding soldier, and taking that to the CBS SEAL Team show. And although it's SEALs, not Delta, he's creating a show that has all of those things that he's experienced. And there's SEALs on there as well that have worked in the writing room. All guys that have been through the ringer in combat, and so that's why I think that show's successful, because it really rings true for a lot of people when they watch the show. But again, back to your point though, is how long does it take? Back in my time, it was all about just, we trained up to get ready. We got put on alert quite often. We were ready to go, and then I got out just before Grenada, so all my pals, I felt like I missed the boat because I got out before Grenada. It's like, what did I do, man? Why did I get out? And I got to go see my pals over at Andrews Air Force Base when they had all the booty and all the equipment that they took from Grenada, and it was there at Andrews Air Force Base for the public to come through and see. And I got to go see a lot of my Ranger buddies. Sergeant Webb was one of the guys who was my team leader at the time, and he, I got to go and link up with him and talk to him, and it was these guys. It's today, it's just constant, nonstop. That rotation of, 3 months, then you're back home training up to go back again. As when your time comes in, you go back again, and that's what it is. It's just a constant work up, train, hone your skills, bring in new guys, and then go back. And I'm in all of them. So those guys, they become hard pretty quick, and they learn who they are.
I want to ask another question, but let me just say this first. So when I was in a military intelligence battalion, and we had attached to us LURS, and they never ever said the 165th Battalion. They were Echo 51st Range Infantry Regiment. They would never acknowledge the fact that they were part of our unit. They always positioned themselves away, but we still were a family. Like, we still had to do things together. And look, I don't blame them, because most MI guys are I'll just say soft, right? But I wasn't. I was in shape. I could do push-ups. I could handle whatever they were doing over there. And there was one guy who was just this incredible E7. He loved his guys. He would work. You could see it from afar. Like he whipped these guys into shape. And one day we were playing flag football, and he broke his nose. This is how hard Rangers are. Jim will appreciate this. This guy breaks his nose. It's obvious his nose is broken. We're looking at it, and he's like, well, what do I do? We're like, well, you got to go to the clinic and at least see if they can set it. And he's like, I don't care if it looks good. Like, it can be dangerous. Like, you may not be able to breathe. You go to bed tonight and you might have a real problem. It's not worth it. He's like, I don't have anything in my medical file. I don't. It's like, this guy was so damn tough. He didn't want to go to the clinic to get his nose looked at because he had broken. And ultimately, I think he did go. But that's a Ranger for you. He's like, I don't want any weakness. I don't want one doubt over my ability.
Well, I tell you, and I know they've changed it because of new protocol and whatnot in the new gentler military that we have. But God, but when I was in, there was like 2 events that I remember quite well. One was King of the Pit, and when I first went in, Colonel Downing became General Downing, but he was our battalion commander and outstanding leader. But we used to play this thing called King of the Pit, and so we have all 3 companies plus headquarters in this one area near Noble Hill, and they would have these like kind of a parapet up, and your company commander would be all 4 of them would be on these parapets, and then their company would surround them. All the NCOs and officers would surround them and protect him, and it became this King of the Pit, whereas you had to get their commanding officer off and get some of your officers on top, and it was like no holds barred. It was like it was called King of the Pit for a reason. I mean, it was punching, fighting, gouging, biting. It was any means necessary to get your CO either up there or to protect your CO from being taken down. And that was a very violent. There was always broken fingers, noses, teeth knocked out, broken collarbones, broken leg. And The other event was we played American ball. American ball was played in the quadrangle there at 2nd Battalion, and I remember at the time was John uh, Captain Jackson became later General Jackson, but he was out there. He was a CO, and after Captain Wagner, and Jackson was not very well liked by most of the Rangers. He was sort of I got on with him okay, but I mean, a lot of people just had a problem, didn't care for him too much. And I remember American ball was basically kind of think rugby, but it was basically again, it's kill the man with the ball, and you basically protected whoever your guy was with the ball. And it was like football, rugby, and it was just pretty much no holds barred. It was like by any means necessary, get that ball into the fucking net. I don't care what you got to do. Protect me. And it was like, I mean, again, it's people came out with broken fingers, noses. There was blood everywhere, but it was always like, ha ha ha. It was like, it kind of reminds me of like the UFC today when these guys are out just beating the shit out of each other and come up and hug each other, and it's just like this Neanderthal, caveman kind of experience. They go, my God, and they changed that because I remember Captain Jackson broke his leg and pretty bad. He got hit. Somebody hit him and snapped his freaking leg in half. And it was just that's what they wanted. They wanted these guys to be. Yeah. They wanted us to be these men who were not afraid of battle, to go in there and do what had to be done. I'll take this one step further to there was a thing, you remember Reforger, Return to Forces to Germany, training exercises, and so we played the aggressor. And I remember Captain Colonel Downey gets us over there, and we had a lot of downtime, because they, I don't know, they were trying to pick and choose the mission. So the mission that my company went on, and this was with Captain Jackson, and I ended up being his RTO because the RTO got messed up somehow, and next thing I got picked. He goes, I want Abell to be my RTO, and I'm like, I'm not an RTO. You know how to do it? I go, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, so I became his RTO. But we jumped in. It was a horrible freaking jump in. It was a night jump in, really bad weather. Well, we all get there, and when we get to the objective was it was like a field medical encampment, all their helicopters, and I remember that was our objective to maintain control, to capture and maintain control of that particular objective. And so we assaulted that objective after about a 12-hour patrol in and doing the reconnoiter. And Pete, I can't tell you, I still laugh about this because it was like we were like savages, literally like savages. I mean, going in, the ambush goes off. We're assaulting. We're blasting away. Again, it's all blanks, obviously. And I remember I'm with one of my pals, and we're going down there. We're blasting these guys. They're all in their tents, and they're all like in sleeping bags. They're all like, there's nobody out on security at all. Everyone's just like dead asleep. We go in there. We're ripping tents open, and I remember there was the one commanding officer. He's still in his sleeping bag. He gets up with his sleeping bag, and his tent gets ripped open. He goes, I am the commanding officer. Who the hell are you? And I remember my pal has the M60 with a blanket after, but he goes, we're the fucking Rangers. Bah, 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 bah. And zippers him right, and the dude flies backwards. He's screaming and hollering that we're going to all be court-martialed, and we're just like laughing, and we're just like, and we have everybody flex scuffed and and it was mayhem. It was brutal. And some of the people got bloody noses because they were trying to fight back. And, we're just like these rough ass soldiers who just go in there, and we were doing what we're told to do. And I remember it was a lot of shit rolled down the hill there. And Colonel comes in, he goes, boys, took a little heat for hitting that objective so hard. And he goes, and so I had to go in, and I had to smooth it out a little bit. And they're just talking about how rough and how cruel and how terrible you men were. He goes, And I told him, I go, that's because they're goddamn Rangers, and that's what they do. And he goes, and you were not prepared for
Yeah.
my Rangers. He goes, and I took the heat for it because he goes, boys, I am proud of you. I remember it was like, we're like, yeah.
Yeah.
He stood up for us, because it wasn't like he, like, and a lot of times you see officers who, like, they don't want their career to go back, so they'll throw you under the bus and, say, oh, my guys were a little too rough. Oh, and I have to go reprimand them. But he just goes, no, that's what they're meant to do. They're training for battle. They're not training to go in there and be nice to you.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was like, that was a huge lesson for us. We're like, well, thank you, Colonel Downing. I mean, it made us feel like wow. And it was, again, all those games that you play, that's what they were. That's what it's training you for. It's preparing you for, and getting
Yeah.
you ready for. So,
Totally. I mean, this is the big thing, right? Because you want Rangers to be like that. They're a special force, but they're a very specific special force. And if you want to minimize it, how many Rangers does it take to do this job? And which, like, Delta teams, SEAL teams, ODAs, different tools.
Well, and I think you've seen it. I mean, we've all seen it in the past 20 years. Rangers have gone from, if you go back to Black Hawk Down, to being those who secure a perimeter, take up airfield and secure the perimeter, to becoming a tier 1 operational unit. They go in, they're now tier 1 guys under the SOCOM, Special Operations Community, and so they've become this force to be reckoned with, and that's what that's who and what they are.
And sometimes you need a bigger, rougher tool. Like, let's say the SF goes in and they say, hey, we've got this airfield, it's ours. Yeah. But you don't just land operations. Like, you have to, you bring in the Rangers to make sure that shit is ours, and then you're able to push this force out and use it to react. Yeah, I mean, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, again, I'm just so in awe of these guys today, and just makes me proud. Again, it makes me, and I'm proud of what I did, but it makes me even more proud because these guys have continued and excelled the community. So, my hat's off to them, and just can't say how proud I am of them.
And I also want to see this for the benefit of all of these younger guys, because we're older guys now, but they have entire careers now at this point where they've only known deployment and combat, and they're desperate to get into that next fight, because this is what they do. Whether they're an E7 and E9, they're like, let's go back, let's get into this thing. And we need folks like that we should use them better than we do. We miss opportunities as a nation, but these guys aren't.
Here's the thing. I go back to when I was in the people that we learned from, that were my biggest influences. I think of like Steve Boom Boom Mattoon and Sergeant Portis and these guys, Sergeant Ray, and some of the these hard ass son of a guns that were training us. They were all from the Vietnam era. They were these badasses. I mean, these guys you were out there with our little PT running shorts on. One of the guys, NCOs from Alpha Company, and I can't remember his name, but man, his one calf, it was just all kind of like switch easy and up his leg, and I remember going, "Oh my God, what happened?" He goes, he got hit with some AK fire over in Vietnam, and he's lucky to be alive." I go, "Oh my God!" But these guys were all just tough as freaking nails, and it was like, that's the one thing I think of. We learned from those who've been there. So today, all of those senior COs and officers who've been on those deployments today and continue to be, they are the ones that are training all of those future Rangers and new Rangers the ropes and what it's like. And it's because it's not. I mean, listen, there's always some casualty. There's always some young Ranger that's going to get horribly hit, killed, lose limbs, and you can't stop that altogether. But you can prepare them for the battle and to be better prepared in terms of I'll give you. I did one of the Grateful Nation episodes I did was with a young Ranger, and my God, it's hearing his stories about what he went through and him as an NCO, the guilt he had about one of his young Rangers who, when they were in the Middle East fighting, and that he said, "I screwed up, there was a door, didn't know what was behind it, and I kind of rushed. I shouldn't have gone through quite, committed so quickly. He goes, but there was a machine gun set up in there. He goes, and when the door opened up, they opened fire. He goes, I got hit. Next thing you know, a hand grenade comes at me. He goes, and my one young ranger, one of the guys that I was in charge of, he takes the blast for me.
Yeah.
And he dies. He goes, so that's something I have to live with. He goes, I fucked up. I feel in my heart that and it's terrible because you go, wow, he lives with that feeling that he. But you know what? It's how do you mitigate that? How do you? I mean, it's just in the heat of the moment. I mean, things happen.
Yeah.
And you can't let that affect you to where I mean, as we all know, a lot of the veterans who take their lives because they have issues like that, and it's like it's sad, but it's like being better prepared for those things, dealing with the outcome of those firefights, and that you can't always control the situation. Things happen like that, and you deal with the outcome.
Yeah. Well, and if you wait 1 second too long, it's also the wrong decision. There's often no good decision. It's just the decision. I wanted to answer Ryan's question. If they're in the bottom of the screen talking about Rangers, if you're an infantry guy, you need Ranger School to really advance ahead of your peers. You have to have that. If you're a support person and not an officer, Ranger slots are a little harder to come by. Do you need one as an intel guy? No, but it will put you in a channel where your intel branch will put you in with infantry units. So if you want to have a career supporting infantry guys, which also means being a second-class citizen in a lot of ways, a lot of units, then you go get Ranger School. But there's a lot of other ways to get promoted without having Ranger School if you're in a non-combat arms MOS, which doesn't mean you don't do it. But if you're my advice to you is if you're going to do it, be in fantastic shape before you even apply, so your leadership already recognizes that you're a good material. They hate to have people fail out of Ranger School. That means you already know you're going to pass. So when you get to the Ranger prep, you're already like, it's a foregone conclusion that you'll pass it. And then don't just, sorry, Tim, don't just stop at the Rangers. Go Green Beret, go Delta. Don't just if you're going down that path, go down it hard and find out where your level is, because if you're an intel guy in a Ranger regiment, you will always be not a Ranger. Even if you're a Ranger, you'll always have to fight that thing because you're not an 11 Bravo at heart. So my advice to you is just go do it. Get into great shape. See if you can make it to Ranger School. It won't be a bad thing, but it will be a thing that puts you in with infantry guys more than not. Any comments on that, Tim?
I was just going to say that Ranger School is, it's the premier small unit tactics and leadership school in the military. And people come from all branches to go to that school. Well, listen, I don't care what you do. If you have a Ranger tab, you learn some beneficial skills, just in leadership, just how to lead men, how to be a person that deals with situations. It's about working the problem that's in front of you. And you know what? That can only make you a better leader down the road. So, and plus it helps you with your promotion too, if you've got a Ranger tab on your shoulder. I was going to say, you were talking about being in the Ranger Regiment today. I mean, today, the cooks have to go through 2 weeks, two months of RASP. The cooks have to go to Ranger School. I mean, the cooks are just as much a Ranger as all the other guys. I mean, because at some point you might find yourself in the shit. So if you're a truck driver, I mean, all these guys now are in the regiment. I mean, they all have to go through exactly what the 11 Bravos do to be in the regiment. And so everyone becomes that. Everyone is a Ranger. It's it's not just you're an outsider. Listen, there's different. Of course, it was different than when I was in. But that's the thing is that today it's become this one giant ball, and they have everything within the Ranger Regiment that they need, and everyone is a Ranger.
I'm going to answer Ryan's next little part here. Ryan, as a collector, telling you, human-wise, become a badass human person. And if you do that, it doesn't matter what's on your arm. You'll be protected by the commanders because you're getting them things that Rangers can't get them. So don't focus so much on Ranger School if you're going to be a human person. It's not a bad school to go to, but really focus on being incredible at collecting in the field. And then get a Ranger tab too. I mean, heck, I wanted to get one. If I had the opportunity, I would have gone too. But, they're hard to come by. So I would say if you're going to go in that route, put a packet in, go to selection instead. And, all right. So I want to ask you a question, two questions. One is you're an actor now, which means you're an artist, which makes you a little bit hippy dippy, but you're also a ranger. Were you an artist before you came into the Rangers, and like you're just an artist who happened to go to Ranger school, or is it the other way around? How would you describe it?
No, I was never an actor in school, man. I was hunter, fisherman. I mean, for me, I grew up Chesapeake Bay. My dad had a 47-foot bay-built fishing boat. My brother and I grew up fishing and crabbing pretty much every weekend, all throughout the summer. You know, we run charts for my dad sometimes, and when he had pals, I wanted to go out, and he was working. Uh, and I loved hunting. Hunting was my thing. Hunting and shooting. I mean, I started hunting guns as a kid. My granddad gave me a single barrel shotgun when I was a kid, and I'd be out in the woods with my pals, squirrel hunting and shooting ducks off the pond, kind of thing. That was me. I loved that aspect of it. Let me go back. What was your original question? I'm getting off on hunting now.
Were you an artist who became a ranger?
See, this is what happens when you get old like us. So acting was never in my portfolio. It was never. I was in school. Never thought about doing a school play. Had no interest in doing a school play. I loved movies and things, but I never thought I wanted to be an actor. It wasn't until I was in Ranger Battalion, and I remember my pal, Wayne DeGroat. Him and I forgot what we were doing. We were, when you're a ranger in Washington State, you have to learn to love being wet and cold. It's just always wet and cold.
Yeah.
I remember we'd just come back, and he was in Bravo Company, I was in Charlie Company, but we still were really good pals, stayed good pals. But I remember we were going to the movies or something. We were trying to get it right. We were talking about how shitty the last week was out there and up in Rainier training area, and how soaking wet and miserable we were. And him and I were talking as we were going to go see a movie, and we go, you know what? Why don't we become freaking actors, man? I mean, we could pretend like we're in the Army and do this stuff and get paid for it, get paid really well, as opposed to actually having to do this stuff. And we would joke about it.
Yeah.
All the time. See a movie, go, man, we could we see a Chuck Norris movie or whatever, and go, man, why are we doing this kind of stuff? So that's when I started thinking about it. It wasn't until I got out of the military and I was in college, University of Maryland, to go to ROTC because I wanted to go back in as an officer. And I remember I had a teacher got me involved in doing some black box theater at the University of Maryland, and so I started doing some theater, and that was I did it because she said, listen, I'll give you extra credit. This will go towards for the class that we're doing, but you'll be in my play because I think you'll be perfect for me. And so I did it, and that was when I first like, okay, well, I've never acted before, and little did I know, I didn't really realize it, but the whole process of acting and all of those things, as I reflect back on it, we always think about it. I think about this is that in the military was really the first place that I started acting. And I say this because let's say you're an NCO now, you're going to become a buck sergeant, an E5, and you're going to be a team leader. Well, now all of a sudden you have to be the leader of your team. You're not their buddy anymore. You're not there playing grab and doing all the stupid shit like I always do. You're now in charge of those men. And now your platoon sergeant is on you, or your squad leader's on you because, Abel, what are you boys doing? What are they doing? Somebody got into a fight at the Madden bar, didn't you? And I got to go talk to them. And then you're the asshole because now you're being the NCO. You're being the responsible person. Abel, you become an asshole. Why are you being an asshole? And all of a sudden you have to act like a fucking sergeant. And I go, that's when I go, well, yeah, because now all of a sudden I'm Sergeant Abel. I've got to be like Sergeant Ray or Sergeant Portis. I've become a leader, a father figure, and I need to, act as such. And I have to be different. And so I would say, okay, I need to act. I'm going to act like Sergeant Mattoon. He was like everybody feared Sergeant Mattoon. When one of the NCOs messed up, Sergeant Mattoon was a platoon, and he would just like pop him right in the freaking chest as hard as he could. And they go, don't do that again.
I love it.
And so I was like, okay. So I go, well, okay, now I'm acting like, then I would have to teach class, like an expert infantry badge course when we're doing like that, the courses, Abel, you're going to be in charge of the um, uh, chemical class, and you got to donning your mask and taking off your protective mask and
Right.
how to all those things. And so I had to have I got my 3x5 cards and I'm teaching a class and I become like, all right, gentlemen, during this course of instruction, I will be your instructor. I am Sergeant Abell. And I think I go, oh, fuck, I'm acting like an NCO. I'm being an instructor. So to me, I go back when people go, when do you start acting? I go, oh, in the military. Wow. So I think about that and I go, wow. So when I started doing the theater is when I kind of started doing more and more of it because it was kind of fun. I was kind of a shy individual. I wasn't like a real boisterous kind of a ball buster kind of guy like a lot of my friends were. And all of a sudden, if you do a play, I could say the most outrageous things to you because I don't like you, but I can say that, and I got permission because it's in the script. I can call you a dirty cocksucking whore because it's in the script. I don't personally think that about you people. It says in the script, so I get to say. And so this is very freeing, it opened up a whole other door inside of me. And I go, wow, so I get to be and play and explore these strange, messed up characters, which is kind of what I gravitate to and what I get cast as now a lot of times. Uh, but yeah, it's the acting thing just really kind of presented itself in college, and but I realized that when people ask me about how I get into acting, I always go back, it was really the military.
It's funny when I was in E4, I worked in a battalion and I was at headquarters. A lot of my peers were out in field offices doing day-to-day strategic spy stuff, right? And so I was a duty body. And again, strong, big, whatever. They're like, go get Pete to do it. And so I learned as part of my acting is to act busy all the time. And so if I had to go from building 1 to building 2, I'd either have a broom, a garbage bag, and I would often trot. Because if I was doing something, nobody's like, hey, Turner, come over here and do this thing I don't want to do,
Right.
because I got sucked into a lot of that stuff.
Oh, you know what? I learned too. Like you never want to be that person that was like sandbagging and not doing what they. So I always found, what? You picked up a little like a little board with some papers put onto them, and you walked around, and then you walk around like
Yeah.
you had a purpose, looking around, and you're looking, and people always go, "Oh, he must be doing. He's on a mission doing something." And I go,
Yeah.
"Wow!" And again, it was like that works. It's like
It does.
that
It
works.
does.
Because
And it
if you
wasn't like
didn't
you
have
felt
anything to
out
do,
of
people
stuff.
go, "Hey, well, you know, do anything? Get in that fucking latrine and start cleaning up a little bit." Like,
Right.
damn.
Yeah. You have to always be, and that's why if you trot and you're like, oh, he's in a hurry. Okay, we'll let him go. Anyhow, I wanted to mention a couple things before we get out of here. So you have another connection besides Michael Broderick to the show. I also have had Don Most on the show, and you guys did Man's Best
Oh
Friend
yeah,
together. And I
Don
love
Most.
Don.
Yeah.
What a guy that guy is.
What a sweet individual he is. He's
Yeah.
good. We had a great time in Michigan. We worked with CI, our pals, DJ Perry and Tony Hornis directed it. DJ wrote the script, and DJ played my son in that. And Don played. Have you seen the film?
I've seen some of it,
Man's
not all
Best
of it.
Friend. Yeah. And Don plays a lawyer, like a small town lawyer, and yeah, it was just a great experience meeting him because for me, before I went in the military, I used to watch. Happy was one of the shows I had to watch.
Right.
I love that show. The Fonz and all that, and Ralph Mouth, man. It was like, I mean, that's one thing I think about being an actor. It's getting to work with those people that you grew up watching, and seeing them. Like, man, you know what? I grew up watching you, dude. I mean, it was like one of the most amazing, most wonderful things. And yeah, hopefully I get to work with him again sometime. I just love that guy. And he's a hell of a singer. I've seen him
That's
sing.
one of the things I love the most about him is that he sings these classics. I love that.
Oh,
Do you know, or have you worked with Pete Koch?
I don't know Pete Koch.
Pete Koch is a former LA Raider, grew up and went to Maryland, played football, and he's like 5 years or so younger than you, so you guys, but you've seen about, he was the Swede in Heartbreak Ridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He's your pal.
I'm going to introduce you.
He's like your pal. I just want to say, I have to say that the whole reason that I am on your show, though, is because of Jason Piccolo and also Michael Broderick, because of Fathers and Sons. And
that's right.
All those things we're talking about, all those NCOs that we talk about. When Michael asked me to play Del in Fathers and Sons, it was it becomes this huge ball. I take all those NCOs that I've worked with and people, and,
Yeah.
and even like that when I did the Bruckheimer series, Soldier of Fortune, that that introduced me to Harry Humphreys, who was a Vietnam era Navy SEAL, and so he was also an NCO over there, and with Dick Marcinko. Dick Marcinko was his commanding officer, and he was his second in command. And but Harry was just sort of a kind of a gruff, kind of great guy, and I take someone like Harry playing as who's a SEAL and playing Dell, and then some of Harry's pals, and then I take all those people that I worked with and take pieces of those and I kind of mold them together and create Dell, this guy who's like this, I'll say, this wise old SEAL instructor, who knows and has seen things. And I kind of try to imbue that into the character of what Graham Morton wrote. And again, they're all based on Jack Carr's characters from his book. And I just that was one of the best things that happened in 2020, because 2020 being the year that COVID kind of shut everything down, and it really was. I think it got such a great response, Fathers and Sons, and it's very very fortunate to have worked with someone as talented as Mike and asked to be part of it.
Yeah, and the link for that, by the way, all you got to do is type in Fathers and Sons or Terminal List or Michael Blarick or Tim Abell, and then it'll all come up. But there's the link if you're going to look on YouTube, and it's cool. One of the things that I loved about it, I mean, look, there's a lot of things I loved about it, but when it tells that in between story, what I call an in betweenquel, right? Like this is not like these guys are in a time of repose, but many of us who go into the military, like that sergeant is our dad. Like our dad does what our dad does, good or bad. But then you really become an adult under the tutelage of these Dells or whoever these guys are, and there's this reverence for, it's incredible the amount of impact a great NCO can have on someone, especially someone with as much experience as Dell would have as an instructor. I mean, I taught spies source operations in Huachuca. And I learned so much more than I could ever teach those guys, because I got to take all of their judo and combine it and go, here's what you should be doing, and then push it to them. And you develop this wisdom. And I know, like, if I come across someone and they happen, I mean, it's been a long time now, but if they happen to remember me, they're going to remember a positive thing, because I was reflecting back to them what they were giving to me in a processed form, and it's incredible to see that kind of an interaction played so well. And then I wanted to ask, like, you were so credible the moment you showed up on the stage, right? I mean, you looked legit. There was I was like, I bet this guy's a veteran, just because you weren't acting. You were just being Dell, So how hard is that role for you? I mean, how much acting, Al Pacino always plays Al Pacino playing a guy, right? And there's no knocking Al Pacino. He gets to do whatever he wants. But how hard did you have to act to pull that off? Or is that just a guy does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, one thing I learn as an actor is acting means not acting. And what I mean by that is we don't want to stand by one side. I just want to make sure I don't run out of juice here. The one thing is that we don't want to do is act, because acting looks like acting. And you're talking about, am I familiar with that character? Yeah, you know what? As I talked about all the NCOs that I know, all the experiences dealing with veterans that are going through issues and problems, kind of being that father figure, if you will, talking to some of them might need a little counseling just so they can kind of get through a moment, and they need somebody to bounce some thoughts and ideas and feelings off of. That's kind of how I saw it. And again, the script was so well written by Vernon. I thought, it really didn't take a lot to create, in my mind, who Dell was, and then who he was based upon what's in the script, and talking to Michael, and then just be that guy. Because it's just, we've both been there. We've had pals we've had to talk to. We've talked to pals, and that's the one thing about I'll say guys, is how we deal with each other. It's different than let's say female like deal with each other in terms of dealing with problems, and or guys and girls. It's that introspection, I'll say, because it's Dell's got just as much baggage as is Michael's character, you know, as is Tom. And so there it's the guidance of, as I said earlier in the show, it's about the best way to help yourself is by helping other people. And so I looked at it as that, as Dell, you know, hey, Dell is this guy, and you know, if you were to explore Dell, I mean, he might be quite a screwed up character, you know, might be quite screwed up. And Michael kind of touched on that. Tom touched on that when says, "Well, you don't have any kids. How the hell would you know?" You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you're right. I don't. And why don't I? Because I can't keep a woman in my life, probably because I'm, you know, a
So
drinker
true.
and a biker and love to go hang out in my house, and I probably got a screwed up life. But I can help out right here. And so again, I look at all those things as an actor. So many actors think about acting as like, I can be a good actor. You know, how I how I play this character, and so much of being an actor is the experiences you've had in life. And all you do is bring those experiences of life to your character. And again, and they don't have to be touted. Like I said, you don't have to. Dell doesn't have to go. Hey, I got woman issues. I got problems. I got issues. I can't keep a woman. Maybe I had a kid who got killed. I don't know. All those things that could be in Dell's past, but they're there. And like when he comes on, and thank you for saying this, is that I bring all that with Dell. That's all the baggage that I bring. It's also in me. And so if you see that, then you kind of get a complete character. You kind of go, oh wow, this guy is like, this guy pretty better. Did you see that Navy SEAL? What was it called? God, what was it called? Valor.
I haven't.
Remember
I haven't.
There's one. It was all a bunch of real Navy SEALs in the movie, and they had made this film, and they were using real SEALs because it was just started off as being like a Navy promotional video, like for recruitment for naval special warfare. And so they used a lot of real Navy SEAls, and some of the actors were not such good actors. But there was one guy who I swore he had to be an actor because he came in as like this master chief, and he was doing the interrogation of this individual, and he's got the beard, and he's just kind of smooth, suave, and the way he's doing his interrogation. And I go, who's this actor? This guy's really good. Well, comes out he was a real master chief, and he was just good, and he basically was just doing his job. He brought his skill set to the film set and just did what he did in real life. Is if you play undercover guys, or if you're interrogating, I mean, you don't have to act. You do what you do.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't look like I'm playing a character who's interrogating someone. And all he did was, all I was doing was doing what I did every day, interrogating suspects and individuals, trying to get information so they couldn't kill my guys. And he was just so believable. So I look at that and go, that guy's a natural. He gets it. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And when you've done it, as long as guys like us have, I always say this: when you see, if I was to deploy and support, a Ranger regiment or whatever, the colonel's going to love me. I mean, adore me, because I'm getting him stuff he can't get anywhere else. When you watch me work, you'll swear to God, I'm just goofing around, having a conversation, because it's all a performance. I'm acting in a way in that special requirement because I know how to do it. I'm so familiar with it. It's because I'm great at it. It's like playing the guitar. Like, I can play that part. No, you can't. No, you can't. It's way harder than you realize to be that smooth, to be that efficient.
I tell you, I listen to some of your podcasts with Jason. I just love them because you guys talk about how you make rapport with somebody. You find commonality. You create all that makes them feel comfortable so that you can talk to them, make a friend. And it's such great. I mean, listen, those are great skills as an actor, man. And that's what I was going. That's what as an actor we do. You could be a great actor, or you could be that guy teaching guys how to pick up shit. I mean, it's like, it's just about making, how do you make small talk? And that's the one thing for me. It's why I kind of gravitated toward being an actor, because I was be afraid of I'll say talking to girls, you know. So I can see a beautiful girl at a bar and I go, hey, well, go talk to her. She's looking at you. She wants to talk to you. Which I got no idea what to say to her. I'm just going to be a goofball and never mind. I'm like, you know, until maybe she comes over and starts talking to me. But I had those pals who were like, oh, Abel, here's how you do it. How you doing? And could go over. The next thing you know, he's got a phone number. And I'm going, dude, I don't know how you do it, man. Hey, you just got to talk to him, man. You just got to be confident. And that's when you realize you go, okay. So as an actor, all of a sudden I become like, okay, gotta be cool, confident.
Yeah.
Make some small talk, make a friend. You know, use some Zig Ziglar stuff in there. And like going,
Yeah.
And okay, I get it. And the reason I started to get it was after I got out of the military. Before the acting thing, I worked at an Arthur Murray dance studio for about 4.5 years. So I taught ballroom dance, even though I couldn't teach ballroom dance. But you had to have a rapport with your students. And so I became very skillful at talking to my students and talking to people I didn't know because I had to, because it was my job while I was going to college. And so it became like, okay. And then in the meantime, I kind of learned to dance. The next thing I became a really good dancer. But that's the thing was, okay, it's all about, hey, how you doing, Pete? So it's your first time here, you and your wife? Yeah. Wow, do you guys dance? Well, not really. I step on her toes, and she yells at me. Oh, you make small talk, and then you make a friend. And next thing you know, I go, okay, I can get this. And that's what made me a better actor, I think, too.
Yeah.
But you got that skill set, you know. You got that skill set.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you got that skill
Well, and the thing like that I had to learn was I had to become part of a family. So I get placed there to do a job for some colonel they don't know, don't care about. This could be a SEAL team, could be anybody. And if I couldn't make friends with those guys, it didn't matter what I did out in the battle zone because I'm not part of this family. And so especially if I had the opportunity pre-deployment to go and hang out with these guys, I would go out and I would talk to girls, but I would try to get them laid. Like, how do I get Dell laid?
You're a good buddy. You're a good buddy.
That's what I want them to think. Okay, this guy's pretty cool. When I didn't have a chance to do it, like if they were far removed, I'd bring a couple gallons. I put gallon buckets under my arm of ice cream from the chow hall because they don't get that stuff. I know this because I've been out to places like that. And you show up with the ice cream. Yes, they hate me because I'm wearing civilian clothes and everything else. But the E7, I go, hey, I got this ice cream. I know what I'm doing. I can go find a chow hall. Hey, Sarge, where do I take this stuff? I got this ice cream I brought because, I know you guys don't get any. And they're like, holy shit. And I swear to God, this is true. So I'm sitting down chow, they're eating my ice cream and there's these E4s and E3s looking at me and they're not under their breath talking about me at the same table because they hate anybody who's there, just because I'm not part of the unit. And that E7 goes, hey, Miller, hey, Sanchez, how you like that ice cream? And they're like, oh man, this is so good. He's like, that guy brought it. I went from being some piece of shit guy to Pete. Yeah, in an instant, right? And that's all part of the act, right? You got to act like you want to belong to these people, and you got to act like you care about them, and then they might believe you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, you're building that relationship, you're building the rapport, and how do you? I mean, when you deal with I always wonder this because it's like for you when let's say you're in Kabul and you're dealing with elders and you have a translator. I mean, that's just kind of hinky there because you have no idea what this guy said. What the interaction? I mean, is it just what you bring? I mean, you're not just bringing a satchel of cash. You're also trying to make a friend with this guy. How do you make a friend with these guys?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got several techniques that I do. Like I can walk into a village and start asking around, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of sheikhs or leaders that'll pull me into a room and want to have a conversation. But it's because I'm curious in a way that is respectful to them. So if I came to you and I said, man, I'm going to go out to Maryland, I would love to know all about like the stuff, like the real stuff. You wouldn't be able to stop shutting. Like you'd be like, oh my God, crab cakes. This is where you would just go crazy. And that's what I do with these guys is I let them be them. And then the other thing I do, and this is critical, and hardly anyone else ever does this, and it's not something the Army teaches, is I respect the hell out of my interpreter. And I explain to them right from the start, we're never going to ask direct questions like, where are the bombs? When is the attack coming? If they're going to tell you that stuff, for sure, grab all that information. But we're never looking actively for that. We're going to get there through other paths. And we want to be respectful to who these guys, because they live in the combat zone every day, like where we gear up to and go out to. they're there all the time. So we have to understand who they are and what they do. And that's why I explain I'm desperate to get my interpreter to understand that and to trust me, because I need to trust them. And if we don't trust each other, then we can't effectively engage these people. So it's all about, for me, building that trust first with my interpreter so that they can be a better form of me.
And then you always have to be prepared, because you never know if your interpreter is a good guy or a bad guy, or who your security. Maybe these guys are going to be one of those dudes who are going to go yell Allah Akbar and shoot you in the friggin' back.
Yeah, I mean it's there's risk. I mean it's combat, right? So there's risk, and I'm pretty good at mitigating that. But you're right, you have that, or that some Afghan police guy is going to turn his gun on you. Like we always walked around with one in the chamber, because you don't know when a firefight's going to jump out on the camp between partners. And so there's that threat is all around. That's one of those threats, Tim, where you just can't stop and worry about it like it's a fact. And you're going to someone's going to break a bone today playing King of the Pit. It's just going to happen, but we're still going to go out and go do it.
Was it General Mattis who had that famous quote about be nice and polite?
Yep.
But always be prepared to kill everybody in the room.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Like, please underestimate me, please. Like I would love that, because my first move is to grab you by your neck and drive your head into the ground. And it's not WWF DDT style. It's all of Pete rolled on top of you, or, I mean, God forbid I ever got into a gunfight, but I'm ready for that, but I don't want to ever have to do it.
How did you get into podcasting? Break it down.
I just came back. I was tired of being deployed and dealing in a world of conflict and threat and danger all the time. And then I had all these incredible stories that I wanted to tell, and it was impossible for me to get transitioned. No one could put me to work because they just didn't understand what I did. Hell, I don't understand what I do. And so my buddy John and I started a show, and it just kept growing, and it became this podcast, and it's continuing to evolve and deliver all these great things. But yeah, I mean, that was it. Just a need to tell these stories and kind of deal with my own stuff, my own life. There's a lot of Dell in me. I've got a kid, but I've got a bunch of failed relationships and bad mistakes and no money from all the money I made and all those things.
Life, man, it's life.
But life. Exactly, life, yeah.
But
it's been a great ride.
Who you are. Yeah.
It's a hard ride, but that life is a hard ride,
But see, you have something to give. You have lessons to teach. What I told you before we went on air is, I love the fact that your show is such. You have such an eclectic list of people that you interview. It's not just one theme, and that's it's like a Britannica, Hotel Britannica. You cover everything, and I love the fact that it could be one day about Beverly Hills real estate, to being an actor, to being one of your pals like Jason Piccolo. I'm talking about what you guys did. It's or to rate. What is it? The one I saw was critical race theory. All these things. It's like amazing. For me, it's what broadens the mind as an actor. This would be a podcast that I'd want to do every day, because it creates all these different new ideas and thoughts, because it's not just one dimensional. That's what I would say to all the military guys that are listening here that want to be actors, I should say. And I don't know if there's anybody out there that does, but open your mind up to everything. Not just acting is not just about learning how to emote. Watch James Dean movies and be like, have angst. It's about living a life well lived, or, as we've talked about, screwed up, failed relationships. I've got those too. You got kids who you may or may not be close to. You got exes that hate your guts and maybe took all your money. But you deal with it, and life goes on. It doesn't stop. And how do I make my life better? And from what I've learned, and if you can teach from your position behind that microphone, if you could have shows where you deal with some of those issues, where it's about relationships, like, hey, I screwed up, and I could go back and, man, I need to do a lot of mea culpas to a lot of people that I screwed over, and maybe I wasn't the best person, and I think back, that person was a good person, and I was not a good person in that relationship, and I screwed up, and I'm sorry, and how can I move on to be better? And it's hard, because life throws you curveballs every day. And one day act in the acting world, I could be on a TV series. That could be, you know, the Bruckheimers series made tons of money, which then, when it ends, it cost me my marriage, my 12-year marriage. You know, I ended up it kind of created friction for all kinds of reasons, but it caused friction, and I ended up getting divorced because of a series that I made tons of money on and bought a house, and you think, wow, this should be a good thing, and then it's like, wow, why did that happen? You know, how could I maybe? Well, who knows? Sometimes I think it's just, you know, it is what it is. This life, again, anybody thinking about being an actor, you know, it's like anything. It's like a guy being in the military, and the wife wants him to get out of the military so he can spend more time with the family and the kids. And you know, same thing with acting. I mean, you can be an actor. It's like it's a very selfish life because you're doing this job, and it takes a lot to be involved in this. And sometimes you have to go to locations. Sometimes you're away, and you're working, and you're not able to be back. It's like you know, sometimes you're making a lot of money, and sometimes you're like scraping bottom and going, damn, I need a job. You know, so it's a roller coaster, man. You got to learn to love the ups and downs, and that's just life. You know?
I love
But
it.
joy
Stand
in
by
it.
one sec. Let me wrap this thing up. Hold on.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly.